Reporting in from Sector 11, I'm Devin.
And I'm Jordan.
And you're listening to the Goddardam Gazette.
Forward, the sun I look towards. These borders and orders in all four corners of my storage. That's my brain, it's just one of many orbs.
All right, everyone, today's special guest is Mr. Jordan Forkey, and we are here to talk about something really interesting, and I'm going to let Mr. Jordan take it from here and explain what he has done with Mr. Josh Eppard.
Yeah, so thanks a lot, Devin. Josh Eppard, if you're a fan of Coheed and Cambria, you know that he's, their very early drummer. He's not the first drummer, but the who everyone really considers their first major drummer. And, he had his drug problem and came out of the band and came back in the band and, all that. But I knew that. Like a lot of people, I knew that. I knew about Weird Science. And I was a big fan of Josh. When the first album came out, I was playing drums at the time. I was in Albany, New York. I was, doing the same kind of thing Coheed was doing. I just sucked and they didn't. And I realized I sucked, so I stopped playing drums. But around, 2002, 2003, I heard the second album, and I'm like, it was a huge step up for me. I thought it was, In Keeping Secrets is just like, it was a great record. But as much as I loved Coheed, my connection to the band was always Josh. I always thought the drumming was just incredible. When I heard he left the band, I kind of, just like a lot of people do with music, I appreciated the band, and when new records came out, I would kind of peruse them, but nothing like, those first early records. And then fast forward to 2022. Huge jump in time, and I got asked to direct a drum video for Josh Eppard, and I didn't even know at that point he was back in Coheed, so I was just kind of like already a huge fan of Coheed, but hadn't listened in a little while. And when I directed this it's for Josh's YouTube series. He has a drum series on YouTube just called Josh Eppard Drums, and when I directed those videos, not only did I see one of my favorite drummers of all time up close and personal, but I met like a really incredible guy, just like a wonderful person. And then once I started digging deeper, I was like, man, this is a story that should be told by a guy that everyone should hear from. And that's really, I can obviously, pontificate about this subject forever, but really that's, so I guess I haven't really introduced the film yet, so let me do that. Really, so I make this drum series for Josh. Like I said, he's this wonderful guy. We feel like he's a guy deserving of a story. And I approached him about making something. And if I showed you my original treatment was, there's this guy who's an open-handed drummer, who's incredibly good at the drums, and played Woodstock 94 at 13, 14 years old. He's like this just really young prodigy, and he has this family of musicians. Let's check that story out. It went from that to the film that we've made, and it's called At the Cost of Everything. And At the Cost of Everything follows and chronicles Josh's story of addiction and recovery. And it's a really powerful story of not only Josh, his Coheed sort of adventure, but also where he is now and where he's going in the future.
It's a great film. I luckily had the chance to view it already, and it was really, it always is incredible to hear Josh talk, but to see the cinematography behind it, watching him progress from playing with three, with the photos and videos from there all the way to now, where there's footage from Neverender, No World for the Waking Mind, and people are showing off their Coheed tattoos, and they're doing the meet and greets, and Josh is talking directly to us as the viewer. It was a really incredible watch. I think there could be another film just based on the Weird Science end of it all as well, and joining Terrible Things and coming back out of that, because there's so much of Josh's story that, to get it all in just under 40 minutes is, a really tough feat, and I think you guys managed to pull it off quite well.
Thank you so much. We worked incredibly hard on this film, and you're one of the only people outside of the circle of friends that have seen it. So it's lots of people that I know that know me or maybe know Josh, but as just someone that I haven't really met before and that just got recommended through an acquaintance, I said, I'm super thrilled to have someone else see it. I appreciate your comments. The under 40 is tough because there's sort of a strategic thing there where we're trying to hit a short film market so that we can potentially the Woodstock Film Festival is sort of our first spot that we're trying to get to, considering where Josh is from, considering sort of the music background of the band and all those things considered, we chose the Woodstock Film Festival. So the film was really cut, and sort of this version that you've seen was really designed for that film fest as our first sort of showing of it. But we're incredibly proud of it and incredibly proud of the story. And I think that whether you're a fan of Coheed or not, when you hear Josh's story, you're not only going to want to hear the band and be like, what does this dude actually do in this band? And God, look at the rest of the band. I mean, Claudio is the most incredible guitar player, and then he's singing on top of it. It's just silly. I got really lucky. I was up close and personal. All that footage of Josh playing with Coheed from New Orleans, that's me filming on stage with those guys. And it was crazy. I was super focused on my job, and I'm a huge Coheed fan. So there's a scene when Josh is in the tunnel and everyone's yelling Coheed, Coheed. And that's not even like an edit. That's real. That was the real sound from the place. I didn't have to edit that. I remember in real time, that was near the end of that really long day of shooting. And all of a sudden I kind of snapped out of it. And I said, oh my God, I'm backstage at a Coheed show and they're all yelling Coheed, like, oh my God. And then when they got out on stage, it was just like, I've seen them play a bunch of times, but this was just, it was a weird experience, but it was incredible.
So rewinding a little bit, you said the Woodstock Film Festival. Now, when is that going to happen? And is that premiere something that our listeners or anyone in the Coheed fandom can come and experience live?
Wow, what a great question. So if anyone that loves Coheed or loves Josh could do is, if you want to contact the Woodstock Film Fest and say, God, I really want At the Cost of Everything to be one of the films you guys play. There are certain film fest rules, and one of them is that if it gets selected there, it has to be the first place that it's publicly aired anywhere. So we just thought, because of Josh and Jack, the sort of side co-star of the film, who's also an incredible musician and an incredible person in his own right, they just have such a Woodstock sort of background, and I thought that it'd be a great place to honor Woodstock, honor Josh and his family, and, strategically have the film. We're not known for making documentaries. I own a company called 32 Mile Productions, another company called Filmworks, and we do lots of client services. We do lots of everything, commercials, this and that. We do make documentaries, but it's not our main thing. This is like a different thing for us. We had to tell the story. And like I said, Nick Nigra, who's right behind me, is one of our editors. It's like we've gone all in on this. I spent a lot of my own money. I'm the only one that's spent any money on this. We produced it just here by ourselves. We didn't make this film for anyone. We just went out and did it on our own. Spent the money. I flew myself to New Orleans and just made sure I could get the footage. I drove to go meet Richard Christie, who's an amazing drummer in his own right. And so I guess to answer your question in a really long roundabout way, if it gets selected for the Woodstock Film Fest, which we'll find out in September, it would then air in October at the Woodstock Film Fest. So if it gets selected, it's something that anyone that attended the Woodstock Film Fest could see. And after that, we're hoping the sky's the limit and that we can either make a longer version that's a more feature length, including interviews with guys like, maybe even Dave Grohl or people that are connected to the Taylor Hawkins sort of camp, and love to talk to the rest of Coheed and Cambria. Just hasn't happened yet because we've been so focused on Josh, but at some point it'd be great to have them featured in there because, he's been back in the band for I think 12 years now. So it's pretty incredible journey.
when you are recording a documentary, how does that differ from when you were filming just the Josh Eppard drums videos or any of the other content that you've created?
Oh, man, that's a great question. The Josh Eppard content from like his YouTube series, what's different about that, and it's a doubly great question because it's kind of why I wanted to do this, is that when I filmed Josh and I saw the end result, I was like, man, we made great drum videos. Like, if you want to learn how to play some Coheed stuff, he's not explaining it, but he's showing you his drum parts. And we filmed it from, I'm a drummer, so I wanted to film it from angles where every drummer would be like, okay, I feel like this was made by a guy who cares about me watching this. But I didn't think it showcased who Josh really was. So something like a documentary, it's painstaking making something like this. This is version 16, the one we submitted to. And when I say version 16, that's version 16 of this version. There's probably 16 different versions that have longer versions of stories. The scene at the end with the uncle was in the body of the film at one point. Jack, the side character, had like a 20-minute scene at one point. There's been a lot of different versions. This version was the version where we just like, I'm talking about multiple 20-hour days, months and months of just editing, painstakingly editing, and there's no end. It really is just like whenever we can't keep producing or it finds a final home, we'll stop working on it, but we're just going to continue. For example, in this version, Josh's wife Tammy is only sort of like side featured, but I interviewed her Monday. So in the next version after the Woodstock Film Fest, we will have a version with Josh's wife talking about the entire journey. So I'm really excited for that to be integrated into the film. But yeah, so it's a lot different because the way a normal client video works is you've got a clear expectation of what the delivery is and the delivery date and who's responsible for what. With this, there were months where nobody believed in this, including myself. I mean, there were moments where I was like, I wasted my time. What am I doing here? How I'm never going to be able to make this make sense to anybody. And I just kept having to, how do I make an audience understand this? How to make an audience understand that? And through these different versions and showing them to audiences, we found the right voice. So it's similar in that all those skills you learn for the client services sort of work, commercials, web videos, testimonials, all those skills transfer over, lighting, recording audio. But filming something with Josh, you have to figure out, how do I make an audience understand this dude? So I chose something called direct cinema, where I put the camera on him. And I was like, dude, you are so entertaining. I'm just going to put the camera on you and you start talking. And it's funny, a lot of the editors we brought in early on couldn't edit the material. They just didn't understand what to do with it because they kept saying to me, well, you can't use this. He's just like talking to you in some back room. And I was like, no, you don't understand. That's the gold. That's the money, is like when he's just talking to the camera because he's so damn good and he's so honest. He really is just incredibly honest. The Josh you see on camera is the Josh that I've known. He's that guy. It's pretty awesome. Good question, too, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you. And I think that Josh's ability to talk and connect with people is also beneficial when it comes to the drum set confessional end of things, which was also featured in the film.
Well, I can tell you this, man. I learned a ton about addiction. I understood addiction on, a micro level, I guess, the way that a lot of us do. But understanding addiction at that level was something that I didn't fully understand. And that this film really put me in the forefront of how hardcore this stuff is. I think, Josh is, it's not one of a kind, obviously, but he's one of a few, I guess, is the way to say it. And I did learn a lot about how to capture somebody and how to try to showcase a person in a specific way that is different than any way I've ever done it before. We chose the way we shot him because we felt that, like the sit-down interview I did with Josh, where he's in his memorabilia room and it's kind of like throughout the film, it's like his main interview. That's sort of like my least favorite stuff. My favorite stuff is like when we're in the car and he's like talking about his father and like, what it was like for him to be loved on the drums by his dad early on and things like that. that's the moments that I'm always looking for, is like when people kind of disarm themselves and their true sort of self. So I really learned much more about humanity and what it takes to overcome addiction and how much it affects the people around you. I guess sort of the biggest takeaway for me, man, is, when I first met Jack, I actually met him. Jack is the guy who's way closer to addiction than Josh is. When I met him, I could see in his face how much closer he was. He was 5 months clean. He overdosed 2 times in the same day. He died 2 times in the same day, and he used Narcan to. But when he told me how crazy it was, it just almost seemed fake, because he was talking like this. It was like, yeah, man, I died 2 times. Yeah, it was just weird. But then as soon as I was like, I wonder how his sister and his girlfriend feel. And as soon as I talked to them, I was like, oh, the pain isn't in the addict a lot of times. The pain is in the people that are around them, because they're the ones that are actually picking up the pieces. They're the ones that are driving them to the hospital or calling 911 or saving their lives. And the person that's overdosing, at least in this case, didn't really know. They weren't really there. So I learned that it hurts the people around you way more than I recognized before I started this film.
It was really powerful to see, of course, Josh's side of the story, but then you do shift to Jack Manley, and you see that, yes, he's an artist and he's creating and he's a talented musician, but there's so much behind that. When people see this film, what do you hope that they take away from seeing people like Josh and like Jack and even Joey?
So glad you brought up Joey. So what I hope they take away, and I genuinely made the film for this reason, is that I originally was trying to figure out how to work with Josh, and probably, I wouldn't say a clandestine way or some sort of like nefarious way, but I was trying to work with Josh in a way where I was like, what do I do with this guy? I met him. I like working with him. He seems like a great guy. How do I team up with Josh and make something? And then when I started to follow his Instagram and really look at what he was doing, I kind of discovered the early drum set confessional, and I saw someone post about their addiction and thanking him for talking about it. And at that point, I was like, I want that person to feel like when they watch this, that they have a chance. Like when they finish this film, I want them to think, holy shit, you know what? I could just I could go right now to a doctor. I could call my mom. I could tell my sister that I need help, and look what this guy did. But when I started making the film, man, I could see Josh he was so far away from drugs that the audience was just going to be like, okay, well, this guy is fine. What's at stake, And when I saw Jack, I was like, oh, that's what's at stake, man. It's all the people that he's got to pull back out. And he feels really responsible for Jack. So I think, are just people that he helped, in his own mind, invite them to drugs. And obviously these people, most people aren't going to do what they don't want to do. But I think Josh feels responsible for helping some of these old friends of his. And Jack is one of those people that's like, he's on the edge. He's been on the edge, at least. We're so happy to see where he is now. And I've been watching that journey. But I hope when someone watches this film, they truly, truly feel like this is real. You're watching someone in real time recover, and there is hope. You could make a whole film on Joey, man. I mean, Joey is an incredible guy, right? He's an incredible musician. When I first heard about Josh Eppard, it was like, dude, the drummer for Coheed and Cambria? He's not even the best musician in his family. That was what people always used to say. And it was like, wow, whoa, really? Like, who is, his dad's this crazy musician. So I remember I saw Coheed and Cambria at Northern Lights, which is now called the Upstate Concert Hall, I think. And they had a horrible sound system. They always did. I used to play there as a kid. Horrible sound system. But even in that horrible sound system, I saw Joey by himself on stage with an acoustic guitar, slapping the acoustic with his thumb, and there were broken strings all over the place. That was like 2004, maybe. But I still remember it. I mean, even before I started this film, I always remembered that performance because I'd never seen someone like, you can't even say play a guitar. It was like control. It was like watching like Prince or something. It was just like this person that was completely connected to their instrument. And, Josh and I have talked about this a lot. the music industry's messed up like that, man. I mean, Joey should be a rock star. Joey should be an absolute rock star. He has all the talent and all the charisma, and he's such a great guy. But yeah, so Joey deserves his own story as well, and I hope when people see it, they'll also check out his music and want to see more of what the Eppards have created throughout their lives.
Would you ever want to or hope to create a film on Joey, or even a film following Jack's story?
So another great question. I would love to film more of Joey. I would love to really go deeper. If I found the right sort of producer or investor that was like, hey, you know what, we really believe in this film, let's go big on it, and let's do like another round of interviews, and let's try to go deep. How do you make this story deeper? I 1,000% would start to follow Joey, just because he has all the talent in the world, but obviously he's playing big shows and things like that, but it's just obviously very few bands are on the level of what Coheed and Cambria has as far as an audience and commercial success. So I think if an audience could see sort of the different levels of success and how they look for people, I think that would be a really beautiful story. And, I really thought at first maybe there was going to be animosity there, or maybe some jealousy, and, who knows? It's just not like that. It's like, you can tell Joey's Josh's bigger brother. It's just obvious right away. He looks way less trusting than Josh when you talk to him. And you can tell that he's had to be the one to keep everybody safe. And, yeah, I totally would do that. And then the other thing that's even a much more realistic thing is Jack actually already has a 25-minute story that we've already edited, we've already produced. It's already there. It just was too distracting for an audience to go so deep on another character for 20 minutes and then come back to Josh. But yeah, I would love to do a Jack story. We're actually talking about it right now, trying to find maybe some sponsors or things that believe in it to spend a little cash to produce a full second story called At the Cost of Everything, Jack Manley. So that would be the next one for us, for like a low-hanging fruit, kind of already there. It just needs some more production.
Tell me more about 32 Mile production. Tell me how you started doing what you're doing, what got you interested in picking up a camera and producing your own media.
Well, thanks for asking. 32 Mile Productions has been in business since 2016. I have been doing this, making and producing and editing shows and everything since about 2005. In 2007, Apple Computers hired me, and in New York City, I used to teach people how to use Final Cut Pro on their computers. So I kind of came from a computer background, computer nerd sort of background, but I had always loved movies. A little interesting side story is I had no idea what I wanted to do when I quit the drums. I was a drummer when I was out of high school, and when I quit playing the drums, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And my brother and I saw Garden State with Zach Braff in the theater. My brother hit me on the shoulder and said, "You could do this." And I said, "Do what?" He said, "Make movies." And honestly, that was whatever year, 2005 maybe, 2004, and I've never done anything else ever since. After I left Apple, I got hired by a sports and TV company called Carr Hughes Productions, which is up here in Saratoga. And we produced TV for NBC, ABC, ESPN, lots of TV shows with big athletes. Every weekend, if you were watching TV between 2008 and 2016, our shows were on every sports network. So I spent a lot of time doing that. And then in 2016, 32 Mile Productions hired me as a editor and producer. And in 2020, the owner was like, "Hey, man, it's pandemic. I want out." And we bought the company, and the animals started to run the zoo. And me and Nick Niagara, who's our editor, and Chuck Fernandez, who's our vice president, just kind of took the reins over in the craziest time in the history of video production ever. And we created a product called the Remote Production Kit, and we started producing during the pandemic with remote tools. And ever since then, we've just done a great job of having clients recognize what we do, and we really specialize in testimonials and those types of things for pharmaceutical companies. I always call it the good pharma. We deal with companies that deal with like rare diseases and things like that. Really beautiful stories, and so we're experts in that. I don't know if there's anyone else in the country that does that better than us. That's like the thing that it's how we pay our bills and have a studio and all that, is because we have this really beautiful set of clients that recognize that sort of our empathy and our ability to like connect with other people isn't just about cameras and editing and lights. It's a lot more about, connecting with people. Same thing with Josh. It's how I filmed Josh, is like I get in there and I try to really understand who the person is, no preconceived notions, and produce it from there. And then what people are watching is very real. And I think they can sense when they're not being bullshitted, and what they're seeing is very real. And that's what we do. So we have got a great team that does that. Me and Nick Herder Dorica, who is our director of photography. We travel all around the country together producing content for, these clients. We do commercials and we fly drones, and we're starting a project right now where we have to learn how to scuba dive so we can shoot under the water. So just anything we can do to keep producing really beautiful content and kind of do it on our own terms, I think is sort of who we are. Kind of just like Josh and Code and Cambria. Not everybody knows us, but the people that do really, really love us.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for letting me in on a little bit of your life. I'd have a few more questions, of course, since this is a Coheed themed podcast. What are your top 3 favorite Coheed songs?
Oh my God. Okay. Devil in Jersey City. You know what? Can you do me a favor? I love Coheed and Cambria, but I can't even name Zeppelin songs. That's my favorite band of all time. Let me think. Welcome Home. Okay, so let me think about it for a second. So I would say, let me answer it like this. I saw Welcome Home at Latin American Fest in Central Park in New York City, and Josh remembers the show. So it must have been something that he actually remembers the show. And they opened up with Welcome Home with a guy playing congas on the drums with Josh on the drums. And it was just like, no one had heard the song yet. And we were like, what is this song? So I loved Welcome Home. I'll probably never not love it because of that moment. Devil in Jersey City, I actually got to ask Josh the other day. I was like, is the kick drum part like this? And it's just so awesome to have someone that you've always loved on the drums be like, oh no, this is how you do it. And you're like, oh my God. And my third favorite Coheed song would have to be, oh my God, probably something off No World for Tomorrow. Let me think here for a second. What's the Josh Eppard song from the music video that we have in the cut? Running Free. Running Free? Yeah. Those are my 3 favorites. So if the audience hears this, I'm sorry. I am a huge Coheed fan. I'm just not good at listing off song titles. So I'm going to go again. I'm going to say Devil in Jersey City, Welcome Home, and Running Free. And if I could just list them off, the reasons why. Devil in Jersey City is like, I love everybody's first albums because they're the most raw and nobody's trying to it's just all there. And I love that album. I love Devil in Jersey City. Welcome Home is just, I know it's like whatever, hate me for loving Welcome Home. It's just awesome. And then Running Free isn't Josh, obviously. It's Taylor Hawkins. But dude, if someone's going to replace you on the drums on an album, that means you're amazing at the drums if Taylor Hawkins is who they bring in. So those are my 3 favorites. Do you have a 3 favorites yourself?
Oh, yeah. I got Island is my number 1. Rise Nyanasha from the latest record, and then probably Radio Bye Bye from No World for Tomorrow. So we both have a No World song. I
love it. What about so Rise, dude? We got to see all that live. like before they released the album, but they would the tracks were silent in the room. So Josh had headphones on when we were doing his drum series, and we're hearing these drum parts, and we're like, "What the hell is this dude playing?" And so when you hear it with the song, you're like, "Wow, what a G!" I mean, wow. So yeah, good answers. That's Rise is amazing.
So those Josh Eppard drum videos were recorded before the album was even out?
Yep, those were recorded. It might have been right before they came out, but yeah, they were. We weren't even, because we weren't we didn't know Josh at all. I was just hired as a director. It was just like, someone that was looking for a director contacted me, and just because you asked this, I have to tell you the story. I'm such kind of an obsessed person that when I heard I was going to be working with Josh Eppard, I was like, okay, I was a drummer, so I was like, he probably has like a 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Those are all rack toms, and like a 14. He has 2 toms. He has a 13 and a 16. So I set my drums up exactly like him in our studio, and I decided I'm going to set up my drums exactly like his, understand this dude so much. So by the time I get on set with this guy, I'm going to know how to film him perfectly. And that's exactly how I did it. I set everything up ahead of time in our studio. I built these camera rigs with an overhead shot. And it was a very low budget thing, honestly. It wasn't a big budget thing. I just was so obsessed with being like, when Josh Eppard's drum video comes out, I want Josh Eppard to be like, holy shit, these are good. That was what I set out for. It was just I wanted him to feel like someone understood his drumming. And I feel like it comes pretty close. The film does a better job, but I think Drumeo will also do a great job of showcasing how amazing he is. I don't know if you know Drumeo, but he should be great on that.
Yeah, the live stream was impressive, and I cannot wait for the edited versions to be publicly available. I know a lot of people are waiting for that, and setting up the drums like Josh is almost a universal experience for drummers among the fence. I think we've all tried to set our kits just like Josh's to see how it feels. And I started as a traditional player, and then switching to open-handed, it felt a little more natural to me. I still, I kind of go back and forth, but it is really great to see him play in such a isolated way and really get the feel for those songs. But the last thing I have to ask, is there anything that you would like to share? Anything that you would like to promote, any of your socials? Where can we find you? Where can we find your studios, your work? Let me have it all.
All right, Devin, thank you for the interview. They were really all thoughtful questions, and I think some of them showcase someone that obviously is in the arts and understands how it all works, so I appreciate that. I didn't know you were a drummer beforehand, so forgive me for being too simple with some of my drum explanations. But I always explain the open-handed trying to play like Josh, like the scene in Happy Gilmore when Shooter McGavin tries to do Happy Gilmore's shot like by himself. That's what I do. I'll be playing by myself and I'll feel okay, and all of a sudden I'll go open-handed and I just feel like Shooter McGavin trying to be Happy Gilmore, and then I stop because I can't do it. I would love to, but I always give up. We're not great at social media. I wish we were. We're working on it, but our real place to find us is on Instagram, is just at 32 Mile Productions, and our website, 32mile.com. I'm 43, so forgive me for being old. Our website, it's weird. The amount of people that go to our get info or get in touch on our website and just contact me and say, dude, I saw this video you made. I love it. Can we talk? Or it really is a great way for us to communicate. But at 32 Mile Productions on Instagram is the best place to reach us as of right now, and you can see all the work we do. I appreciate you asking.
Ooh, well, Jordan, thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who are listening, you can request At the Cost of Everything to be premiered at the Woodstock Film Festival. Hopefully this film comes to fruition, and we'll find out in September if we will get to watch it in October. Jordan, thank you again so much for joining us.
Devin, you're the man. It was great talking to you. Hopefully you edit me well so I don't sound like a jerk, but you were awesome. It was great questions, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one, buddy.
All right. Well, this has been another episode of the Goddardam Gazette.